5-yard line.
It is 4 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, November 19th, which means it is time for the Audible. Thank you for watching Sportsbook Review. I am with my guy, Donnie, RightSide, ready to break down each and every one of these games with a bunch of great cappers in the chat. Donnie, RightSide, happy Tuesday. How are you doing today?
Doing good, man. It was fun catching up with you fellas last night on the live line. Had a good time, and now we're going to roll it over to try to get this week started in the right direction. As we know, what's the game plan, Jimmy, that we always like to say? Lay out the plan, play out the plan by Friday, and have some fun with it. Thanks for joining us today on a Tuesday on the Audible, baby. Let's go.
Let's go. I would be coming off a 4-2 week if I didn't have two Melvin Gordon props last night that I made official plays. So 4-4 for me. I'm 0-6 on my last 6 props. Good enough that they are all official plays. I just can't get it right. I'm smashing my head against the wall. My futures are looking good, but what's going on so far is just horribly ugly. And as embarrassing as it is, the show's also about honesty and transparency. So let's get that horrifying record of mine up on the screen, Rafa. And I'm going to try not to let... Oh, God! Oh, God! Oh, shit! Whew. Okay. There it is. Not getting any better. But some of the cappers in the chat are coming off good weeks. There's Alex Ramirez in the house. Robert Weimer says, good week. Last week for me, this week's card has several crappy games. I'm Jack the Beer. Can't wait another 5 minutes for this thing to start. Robert Weimer in now. Sean Mick, Marcus Angeles, Joe Yorkovich, Pie Guy, Clint Richardson, Drew Barron, Long Beach Stay represents, and Gerald Jones, Rosie Kanaskat, Robbie Tagaloa, Eric 77. Adam Olin. All right, let's get to work. Yes, Robert, it's actually not quite 27 units if I added some of the futures. I just got the Bills over 6.5 wins that cashed, but
yeah,
you know, it's awful. It's awful, and there's nothing I can do about it but study as hard as possible, which I will be doing right now. Donnie, RightSide, let's get after the first Thursday game on our schedule. Let's pop it up. Sportsbookreview.com SBR odds page. Colts, Texans this Thursday night. Houston opening as 3.5-point favorites. They are 4-point favorites at a few of the books, mostly 3.5. This total opened up at 46.5, now at 45.5. These Colts 2-2 on the road going into Houston, 3-1 at home. Man, the Texans were blown out. Ravens beat them up 41-7. They were 4.5-point dogs, and they lose by 34. Houston, though, has been good against the AFC South. They are 14-4 straight up over the last 18 games against the AFC South. Fuller and Bradley Roby are expected. Well, they're game time decisions, but the talk in from the Texans is that Will Fuller will likely be available. The Colts beat up the Jags 33-13, ending a 2-game losing skid. They are 6-0-1 against the spread in their last 7 road games against Houston. They've won 3 straight versus the Texans. They are 6-0 against the spread in their last 6 against the AFC South. They're 3-0 this season. And in their last 11 games against teams above 500, Donnie, they're 10-1 against the spread. Will they be able to do that without Marlon Mack, without Kari Willis, without Pierre Desir, without T.Y. Hilton, without Paris Campbell? They are a mess with injuries. Colts, Texans, Donnie, RightSide.
They were really impressive, talking from a perspective of betting the Colts last week. You know, took Jacksonville apart, rushed it really well on the ground. But then again, you're coming into a Thursday night football game. Both of these teams, though, Jimmy, banged up. We talked a little bit about this game last night. But when we're trying to prognosticate of what's going to take place, I need to forget about just having a great coaching staff, which we know Indianapolis does. Jacoby Brissett's having a pretty good year despite, the injury and missing a game, but he played well enough last week. But when we say well enough, Jimmy, he threw for 125 yards. So now if we say, okay, let's lean behind that big offensive line and let's get after this Houston Texans defense on the ground, like a lot of Lamar Jackson did and, Mark Ingram did for the Ravens. But taking a look at this football game, what are we leaning? We're going on the road. We got Jacoby Brissett, who's on one leg. If T.Y. Hilton doesn't suit up, you don't really have any wide receivers. The one dynamic player you had who can run behind that offensive line is going to be missed in this football game with a broken hand, because when we're taking a look at season totals, Marlon Mack 862 yards on the ground. Fantastic season. Second place on this team, Wilkins, 165. Williams, 117. So I'm led to believe that I'm going to lean on Frank Reich, who's an amazing head football coach. I'm going to go on Thursday, which the home teams usually dominate in Thursday night fashion over the past, 10 years or whatever it is. I can't theoretically put my money on Indianapolis, where Jacoby Brissett's going to have to throw me to a victory, but they throw for 125 yards, 191, 189, 191 in the last 4 games. I don't see it. It'd be Houston Texans or nobody from here Thursday night, Jimmy.
Yeah, with all the injuries, I don't see how you wouldn't. I don't want to have my money on Bill O'Brien. So I guess, short week. Is this just a stay off right now? Robert Weimer says this year it's road team or no team. Total reversal of the Donnie RightSide rule. Give me the hook and I'll take the Colts. Slight lean.
Yeah, but that's maybe for a Sunday, not for Thursday night football. Road team's been doing very well overall on Sundays, but not Thursday nights.
No, they've still been struggling on Thursdays. Robbie Tagaloa, Houston in the under. Robbie Tagaloa, the Samoan Thunder. There's Noli Nose in the house. This is a hat given to me by the legend Noli Nose. Nico said it's a must-win for the Texans, but more than 3 points. Clint Richardson says half the lean home team here might be close. Colts, Texans, Thursday nighter. I've been staying away from Thursday nights. This is tricky. The Colts, you want to back Frank Reich, but you can't do it without these very important pieces to their team that are unavailable. Colts, Texans, that's the Thursday nighter. We won't have a chance to hammer it again, so we will have to do that on our own shows independently. Joe Yerfish said Texas just had 2 bye weeks in a row. Yeah, God, they looked awful against the Ravens on Sunday, 41-7. Wow. Should be a bounce-back spot. I'm not sure what to do with that game at this point. All right, let's move on to the Sunday match, starting with Dolphins-Browns, 41 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy, 14-mile-per-hour winds, and this game marks the 3rd time the Browns have been favored by 10 or more points in the 21st century. Wow. Here we go. Cleveland opening up at -11. That's where they stand now. There are some 10.5s on the board. The total opened at 44.5, and that still is where it stands right now. Cleveland 4-6, but they've won 2 games in a row. They're on extra rest. They're allowing, or this Dolphins team is allowing 148.3 yards on the ground. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt should be able to take advantage of that. Miami has no pass rush whatsoever, but Flores has them playing hard. This Dolphins team gives up 30.5 points per game. Look, I understand why the Browns are 10 or 11-point favorites, but I don't think this is going to be a look on my card. Donnie RightSide, will you be backing the Browns as giant favorites at home this week?
I don't know if I'm going to be able to back them on a side, laying the 10 points or more. I do think it's a really good spot for the Cleveland Browns here, Jimmy, and here's why. From a perspective on offense, you're going to get the 32nd ranked defense in the NFL in the Miami Dolphins. This is one of those games where I think you need some feel-good vibes in Cleveland, where you look at the defenses that they played over the past 5 to 6 weeks, some of the more elite-level teams, you get to take that nice deep breath, similar to what the Buffalo Bills did last week, of playing that Miami Dolphins defense. They shouldn't have any problems getting into the high 20s, low 30s in this football game, but vice versa. If you say, all right, Donnie, if they're going to score that many points, they're probably going to cover the spread. I'm not so sure, because if you're looking for after the suspensions and injuries, Jimmy, 3 out of 4 starting defensive linemen going to be down for the Cleveland Browns. That's going to give a little bit more leeway to the offensive line, who's very porous for the Miami Dolphins, and maybe you get a little bit of Fitz magic, because the one thing that you've shown is they can score points. Now, are they lighting it up and scoring 27, 28, 29 points? No, but they're getting in that high teens to low 20s level. So now, theoretically, if you're trying to cover that 11 or 12-point line, that does make it a little bit harder to do. But I have to tell you right now, this is the one I'm waiting on. It's 27.5 as the team total for the Cleveland Browns in this game, Jimmy. I don't know if it's going to go to 28 or higher, and if it does, I'll pass. But if I can get that number at 27, theoretically being 3 touchdowns and 2 field goals to at least get that push, I'm going to be laying the wood on that, because I think a monster game is on deck for the Cleveland offense. But I do also think the Miami Dolphins might score a little bit. So lean towards the over in the football game. But if I can get 27 as a team total in the Browns, I'm lighting that one up.
I don't mind the over in this spot. There are some good points. Nico saying Browns' red zone offense stinks. That's a problem. That's the only problem I see. I mean, they're going to carry the play. You assume that they're going to carry the play. Nico says Browns average 19 points a game. Eric 777 says, "Past Miami sucks. Cleveland will shoot themselves in both feet." I do know what you mean about the over. And it is an interesting look, and I'll keep that as a lean. Let's move on to the Broncos.
Jimmy, real quick on this one point I want to bring up about the Browns, because we do know they shoot themselves in the foot, but if you look at their past, forget about even the 5-game spread, how about these defenses? They played back-to-back. Look at this. Rams, Baltimore, San Francisco, Seattle, New England, Denver, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh. This is going to be like a vacation for them. That's my angle on this game. I just wanted to bring up that point real quick.
No, it makes sense. This whole... I think there will be points scored. I mean, that's a nice low total right there at 44. Weather is not going to be awful. There's Prince of the City wanting to fade your Eagles and his Eagles as much as possible. Thank you for joining us, Prince of the City. Let's move on to this Broncos-Bills spot right here. The Bills opening up at -5, now -4 across the board. This total opened up low at 36.5. There's 37s and a couple 37.5s in Buffalo. At game time, it'll be 40 Fahrenheit, mostly cloudy with 14-mile-per-hour wind. The weather's actually really good in all these cold all these cold weather stadiums. It's all pretty good weather. Denver looked like they were on their way to a big win on Sunday, and then Vikings took over. Outscored Denver 27-3, 20 points coming in the fourth quarter. Outscored them 27-3 late in that ball game. Broncos will be without Andy Yanovich. Suffered a dislocated elbow against Minnesota. He's going to be out the rest of the season. He's one of their best blockers. He would have been useful. Cortland Sutton having a big year, breakout year, 805 yards, but Tre'Davious White will be lined up across from him. The Broncos still have a strong defense. 9th in NFL in points allowed, 19.7. 4th in yards allowed, 310.8. 5th in passing yards allowed, 210.3. And 11th in rush yards allowed. Bills defense, man, they limited Miami to 1.8 yards per carry on Sunday. It's going to be much more difficult going up against Lindsey and Freeman. John Brown is AFC's number 2 receiver, 817 yards. He's playing well. Josh Allen is not making mistakes. I'm not sure how to handle this spot, Donnie. Broncos, Bills.
It's a good point you bring up, Jimmy, because how do we really gauge what Denver is actually doing? They go and beat the Cleveland Browns with the rookie quarterback. Then we say last week, like, oh, this is where the buck stops here, man. Rookie goes on the road, tough environment. Minnesota feeling themselves coming off a nice Sunday victory versus the Dallas Cowboys. And then they come out and it's 20-0. And still, even though the sign of a good young team, or at least still with it, they blow the lead, Jimmy, but they take the football and go right down the field and set up a first and goal. Weren't able to punch it and get the victory, but I was really impressed. And we talked about this scenario a lot last year on the Audible. The Buffalo Bills weren't a very good a very good offensive team and a decent defensive team last year. They're a little bit better on offense just by a byproduct of a quarterback having another year under his belt. We look at these games the same way we looked at the Jets and, this past weekend, 37s. You need every single thing in your toolbox to go right to stay under 37. I liked what I saw at the Denver Broncos. And if we're taking a look at this, vaunted Buffalo Bills defense, which is ranked high, but you have to look at what's going on. They played Miami 2 out of the past 5 games. They played the Washington Redskins. But even in those games, they're leaky on defense. And as much as I was knocking a couple weeks ago, Denver's got no weapons. They can't do anything. They're moving the ball effectively. They have a pretty good offensive line. They're stacking up in the run. I don't see any. I shouldn't say I don't see any way. There's always a way a game can stay under 37. But I got to tell you, unless we're getting 20-mile-an-hour in really windy conditions where we can't kick 45-yard field goals, I think this game's going to go over the total, Jimmy. I do.
It is a low total. I went over the low total in the Jets-Redskins game, and that was an easy casher. It is a very low total. Very low total. Broncos are a confusing outfit right now. Bills sitting at 7-3, cashed by $400. Over 6.5 wins. And thank you for that. All right, let's move on to Steelers Bengals. I'm still hesitant to even put a lean towards the over here. I don't know what the Broncos... I don't trust the Broncos offensively. Donnie, what were the Broncos doing right against the Vikings in the first half that they stopped doing in the second half? And I know what the Vikings did was they sped everything up. I know that's what they did. But what did the Broncos stop doing in that game?
I don't think they necessarily stopped doing it. It's one of those where the other team is really good on offense, and a top 5 team is going to put pressure on you because even when it looked like they were stopping, the young kid's going to make some, indecisions and not. Also, some of the play calls, Jim. You saw like a 3rd and 1 where try to outsmart yourself instead of handing the football off. They run a reverse late in the football game. But I liked what they were doing because the one thing that I can say is the same thing when we look at Buffalo's offense. They have a kid that can actually make plays with his legs if the play breaks down when your offense isn't overly talented, and that should go far in this game. I don't necessarily know it was really a coaching of what they didn't do. That's just a young football team trying to work their way through some things on offense.
Yeah, they're a tricky team to trust at this point. All right, let's move on to Steelers, Bengals, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. Pittsburgh opening up at -6, now 6.5. There's 1-7 on the board at Bovada. This total opened up at 39.5, and it's dropping 39s and 38.5 on the board. In Cincinnati on Sunday, 45 Fahrenheit, mostly sunny, 10 miles per hour. Pittsburgh enters this spot 5-5, 1-3 on the road against the winless Bengals. Steelers lose 21-7 on Thursday night, so they get a little bit of extra time, but a ton of injuries. Juju Smith-Schuster and Deontay Johnson still working their way through concussion protocol. And then Smith-Schuster is also dealing with a knee injury. James Conner re-injured his shoulder, week 11, unknown. His availability will be unknown. We'll find out tomorrow during the practice. The Steelers practice. They also lose cornerback Artie Burns to a knee injury. Tomlin said it's minor. They lose L.T. Walton to a meniscus tear. He's there. They just recently signed him, a defensive lineman. A lot of injuries. Bengals look better against the Raiders. They got off to a fast start. They look good on that opening drive, and then very little. Finley goes 13 for 31 for 115 yards. Tyler Boyd, still an option, looking to become the 3rd Bengal to ever catch 100 passes in a single season. The Bengals have yet to hit 25 points in a game. Dunlap and Atkins seem like they're the only things going right for the Cincinnati Bengals squad. Donnie, RightSide, Steelers, Bengals.
Yeah, looking at 2 sides of this one, Jimmy. If we can get somewhere around a 40 number in that over-under, I'd probably be looking to the under. I can't back Pittsburgh. Even Cincinnati stinks, we know that. But I can't back Pittsburgh if you're now going to say Juju Smith-Schuster is going to miss this football game. And it looks like James Conner possibly missing this as well. And let's not also forget in that melee last week, you lose your center, man. That's the quarterback of your offensive line and a pretty good center at that in Pouncey. He's not going to play in this football game. You're going on the road now to a real, sterile environment. It's not as if this game is going to be rocking like you would have with a rivalry game with the Cleveland Browns in a division or Baltimore Ravens. This is one that Pittsburgh, I think, expects to win this football game, and they should. 6.5. We'll see if that line creeps to 7. But I tell you, the one look I actually like, Jimmy, when we're taking a look at maybe a team total, forget about taking a look at a team total over in this game. Actually looking at a team total under for the Cincinnati Bengals, currently right around that 16.5 range. Pittsburgh elite on defense. And if we're looking at an offense from the Pittsburgh Steelers that's designed to come into this football game, try to get enough points to get out of here with a victory. Let's just say they get into the low 20s in that range. I don't know if Cincinnati is going to be able to put up 17. I mean, Cincinnati struggled last week with one of the worst defenses in the NFL, only putting up 10 points in that football game. And even worse than that, because, the points are usually a byproduct. 173 yards on the ground. That's not going to happen this week against the Steelers. They threw for 73 yards last week versus the Oakland Raiders. The week before that, Jimmy, against the Baltimore Ravens in a blowout where they damn near lost by, felt like 50 points, 150 yards in the air. If you're not going to have that ground game available with Mixon, the shredded defense, that offense without A.J. Green is going nowhere. I like the under team total in this game for the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't think they can get to 17 here.
Yeah, we can trust the Steelers' defense. Clint Richardson said, took Bengals +7, risky, but value has got to be Bengals here. Ganjapreneur jumped on the Steelers at -6. Adam Olin said, I'd rather off myself than bet on this game. Robert Weimer says, can't take the Bungles here, but ain't taking the Steelers either. Total feels high considering the two offenses here. Noli No says, Finley is garbage. Eric77 says, can the Bengals get their first win? Drew Barron says, feels like a spot for Bengals money line. Joe Yurkovich says, Bengals money line, risk to win 1 unit. Man, Robert Weimer even thinking about putting some lunch money on the Bengals. I mean, I can't do that. I don't know how to handle this spot, except that team total under seems interesting, and I understand why this has gone towards the under. All right, let's move on to Giants, Bears, New York Giants, Chicago Bears. Bears opening up at -6 or 6.5. This total at 40.5, 41 Fahrenheit in Chicago. The weather's fine, partly cloudy, 13-mile-per-hour winds. Giants come in off the bye, haven't won since September 29th, 6-game losing streak, lost 34-27 to the Jets. Daniel Jones, terrible with ball security, 21 turnovers, 8 picks, 13 fumbles. Marcus Golden continues to play well. Evan Ingram is going to be available. We expect he will be active in this game. They're also getting 2 offensive linemen back in Mike Remmers and John Halapio. That should help. Nate Solder, who left the Jets game with a concussion, is expected to be back as well. Sterling Shepard practiced fully. Janoris Jenkins still wearing a no contact. Both of those guys are in concussion protocol, but they should be back. In saying all that, the Bears coming off a 17-7 loss. Trubisky hurt with the hip pointer. Khalil Mack did nothing in that last game. 0 tackles, 0 sacks, 0 quarterback hits, nothing. I know he's getting double teamed, but he's doing nothing. Is this a spot to jump on the Giants plus the points, Donnie RightSide?
I mean, anytime you see the Chicago Bears at this point in the season or for the past couple weeks, it's always a spot to jump on the dog because Matt Nagy is not a head football coach. I don't know how he even functioned last year where they actually made the playoffs and got at home. It's so far in the past. Their offense is completely dysfunctional. They have no tight end. First of all, the tight ends are injured, but even, looking at what they gave you production-wise was absolutely zero. Your running backs, you have Tariq Cohen, who in this game against the Rams, I thought I heard was, a 16-yard run, which is his longest run of the season for a guy that's supposed to be a game breaker. You have a plodding running back that can break tackles also along with him, which is a nice option. Allen Robinson's a decent wide receiver, but your quarterback is horrendous. So now we're going to be led to believe, you see all this, I got to give the front office credit for the Bears and the head football coach covering for Trubisky every single chance they get. Yeah, sure, he was hurt at the end of the first half, but nobody checked him out. We looked in the locker room, he was fine, struggled the entire second half outside of one drive. You pull him on the last to say, hey, you know what, he's hurt with a hip pointer. So let me get this straight. If he's going to play this week and his hip's hurting him again, what do we expect? 145, maybe 170 yards passing out of Mitchell Trubisky. The offense doing nothing. We're talking about a Giants defense that is an actual sieve. And I can't trust the Chicago Bears at all at home whatsoever in this case. I actually look toward an under in this spot because the one thing we know about the Giants is they'll be horrendous in the red zone as well. And if they get down any more than 7 points in a football game, Pat Shermer no longer kicks field goals no matter where he is out in the field. I like an under in this game, but I'm nowhere near the worst I would take the Jets offense, the Miami Dolphins offense, any offense over the Bears offense. They're horrendous. And to top it off, Jimmy, on top of that, their kicker is horrendous on top of it as well. I can't back the Bears.
Can you back the Giants?
I mean, it might be a product of where that line's going to go. I don't think it's going to 7 points because everybody in the world would back them. Coming off a bye, you're going to get your best wide receiver back another week to maybe let Saquon Barkley heal up with that ankle injury. Defense has a chance to game because you don't even actually. I should throw that out. You don't even have to game plan against the Bears. I think the Giants might be backable in this spot, Jimmy. I do.
I think so too. Joe Yurkovich though says Bears can finally run the ball in this game. Daniel Jones will turn it over. Bears cover 4-1. DX Filer says Trubisky is the problem. I think the Giants can stay in this game, and I'm leaning towards that. That might be a look or a move that I make sooner rather than later. I wouldn't be surprised if this got to 5.5. I don't see this going to 7. Do you see this possibly going to Bears -7?
There's no way it could go to 7. What's the news we're waiting for? Like, if Trubisky announced that he's starting, it'll stay the same. Even if Trubisky is down, the line isn't going anywhere if Daniel's the backup, and they might even be an actual boon. But the one thing I would look at, Jimmy, as like a final thing, the good part about it is we get to regroup on Friday. If you're going to get a healthy Giants up, the Giants offensive line isn't very good. But if you get a healthy Giants offensive line, just to slow the Bears front 7 down, they're going to be live in this game. They are.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the first move that I make at this point. Have Giants plus 6.5 in my pocket, and that's the best I can get, 6.5. Okay, let's keep moving. Let's move to Raiders, Jets. This is a tricky one. Raiders opening up at 3.5. They're at 3 at Pinnacle now, but that's at plus 109. They're at 3 at all the other books, but you can get a plus 109 at Pinnacle, plus 105 at 5 Dimes, plus 100 at most of the other books, a minus 105 at BetOnline, and inner tops. In New York, 48 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 8 miles per hour on Sunday. The Jets offense accounted for more than 400 yards in that game against the Redskins. Le'Veon Bell, who's been bad all year, was still pretty bad. 18 carries, 59 yards. He was okay. The Raiders' defensive front is stepping up. Max Crosby, Cleveland Farrell playing well. New York's line is allowed the second most sacks in the league. They allow a sack on 11.6% of Jets passing plays. That's second worst in the league. The Jets average just 16.4 points per game, even coming off a 34-point outing. And then New York's front defensive seven is stepping up with Fadukasi. Folo is out of nowhere, 6th-round pick out of Connecticut. Right now, he's graded out better than every NFL lineman except Aaron Donald and Calais Campbell. Jets have been allowing 81.9 yards on the ground. We know the Raiders like to chew up the ground. Jamal Adams has been incredible over the last few weeks. Crowder and Darnold are starting to roll together. Darnold coming off his best career game. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, man, are the Jets to play at home? Very tough to back the Jets. But is this a spot where we do it? Donnie, RightSide, Raiders, Jets.
Yeah, we want to take maybe snapshots of the season because, starting out, the Jets weren't a very good football team. Then they're getting a little bit healthier now and showing some signs of life, but you have to really temper what they're actually doing on offense or who they're beating. I mean, Miami Dolphins, they actually lost to. Then they played the New York Giants, trash can team. Then they played the Washington Redskins, absolute trash. The Redskins are benching guys in the second half to take a look at some of their depth on their roster. They're supposed to beat those football teams. They went 2-1. That's fine. Now you're actually going to get a formidable opponent from a scheming, side of John Gruden. You're going to get a really good running back, solid offensive line, a quarterback playing at a Pro Bowl level. You just need to get that defense engaged for the Oakland Raiders. But I think the line is actually correct because early in the week, I'm actually, Jets are favored by -3. And I actually had to do a double take that. Oakland is actually favored on the road by -3. I think that does make sense. The one thing I missed today in the morning, and I'm kind of upset with myself, the 45.5s were there. Before I could blink, it went to 46.5. So I sort of backed off that. I was surprised it opened that low because you're taking a look at a quarterback and an offense that, again, starting to get healthy. Le'Veon Bell feels a little bit better. Your wide receivers are now intact, and you get a little bit of good mojo beating up on some bad teams. And let's not forget the Oakland Raiders defense isn't a very good defense. So I do think some points are there. The 21.5 team total for the New York Jets turned into a 22.5. I still think they get over this number at 46.5. That's the way I'm looking at it early in the week. I don't know if I trust either one of these teams in this situation sidewise, but I think we get some points here, Jimmy. I do.
I think there'll be points here, too. The Jets' defense can't defend the pass. Carr had a pretty nice game against the Bengals, 86.2% completion rate, 292 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He should be able to get 300 yards here. The over is an interesting look. I'm very hesitant to back the Jets, but the over might be the look. Joe Yurkovich says confidence is important for the Jets. Jeff Finley says this is a pass game. Nico says a -3. I lean Raiders, but watching the line for this one, Alex Ramirez liking Raiders. Joe Yurkovich says Jets here. Oakland is feeling a little too good. Joe Ramirez says over 46 is the play. Over 46 is the play. Robert Weimer says line does look strange to me. At just a field goal, it feels like I'm being pushed to take the Raiders. Interesting. And Sean Mick liking the under in this spot. The under not liking the look on the over. Okay, let's keep rolling along here. Move over to Panthers, Saints. Saints open up at -8.5. It's up to 10 at some books, 9.5 at others, still an 8.5 at Pinnacle. This total opened up at 48. There's 47s and a couple 46.5s. Panthers 5-5 now, and Kyle Allen looks like a completely different quarterback. Saints 8-2, 4-1 at home. Kyle Allen threw 7 touchdown passes, 0 picks in his first 4 starts. Since then, he's completed 3 touchdown passes and 9 interceptions. The Panthers have lost 3 of 4. They lose their second straight, 29-3 to the Falcons. Kyle Allen throws for 325 yards, but 4 picks. 4 picks. Man, Saints defense look good. Against Tampa, 4 picks for them. They sack Winston twice. They hit him a dozen times. New Orleans 8-2 now and looking good. Also, the over is cashed in each of the last 6 games between these two at the Superdome, and 8 out of 10 overall between the two. But can we trust Kyle Allen to put up points? Can we trust Drew Brees' arm right now? Donnie, RightSide, Panthers, Saints.
Yeah, what happened to Kyle Allen last week? I mean, some of those throws were just abnormally horrible throws. And, coming from a guy that was playing some pretty good football and playing game management football to put his team in position to win football games certainly didn't work out last week. And then that's a little thing we'll talk about the Atlanta Falcons, what we can expect from them. But in this game itself, Jimmy, I actually think in a divisional game here, it sounds kind of crazy because usually when you think about the New Orleans Saints, you look to overs and the way to do that, and a little bit of a sieve on defense that they've been lately for the Carolina Panthers. I think 47.5, 47 is a little bit high in this football game. I'm actually leaning towards the under because when we take a look at last week, 34-17, 51 points, late interception puts that game over the total. But when we're looking from a Drew Brees perspective, last 2 weeks that he's played in the division, 52 yards on the ground, 258 in the air. Last week versus Tampa Bay, 109 yards on the ground and only 219 yards in the air. The Saints defense has been playing at a very high level. Now you're going to get a quarterback with a little bit of shakiness in his tendencies. Maybe you lean more towards on the ground. I think New Orleans is going to have a pretty good game on defense. I don't know if it's a wild, opens up at 7, goes to 10. Some books are showing 8.5. So not even some of the legitimate books out there actually knowing exactly how this game should be lined. I'm actually leaning a little bit towards the under in this scenario just because I like the way New Orleans is playing on defense. I don't know if Drew Brees and that offense is all there yet. You have some athletic linebackers that can try to stymie that run game for the New Orleans Saints in this football game. I like the under in this one. I think both teams might be able to get into the 20s, those lower 20 ranges. I think it stays under 47 here early in the week. That's the way I'm going to lean here, Jimmy.
That lean makes sense. It makes a ton of sense right now because I just do not see the Panthers putting up many points, and there's no reason for the Saints to air it out too much, and they'll just run the ball down the Panthers' throat. That under makes sense, and I'm sure that the public will back the over when these two teams play just because of a vividness bias. I mean, we'll keep an eye on the line. Pinnacle's at 47 right now. Let's just see what Pinnacle has done with this total. So they open it at 48, and it's there for a few hours. It moves down to 47 after 4 hours. 47 at minus 104, and it's now 47 at plus 104. Wow. Okay, so I'll be keeping an eye on it. Nico says Panthers owner showing dissatisfaction with the team. Nico says Panthers were rocked after the Packers lost too many points, but I like the Saints. Alex Ramirez says Saints roll. Eric77 says like the underplay. There's Fat Fist in the house. Okay, let's roll into this Buccaneers-Falcons spot. What an interesting team the Falcons are. I mean, just shocked at what they've done, and I still know that my Falcons futures are all dead. But, there's a tiny, tiny bit of hope. Atlanta opening up minus 4.5. There are still a few 4.5s, but Pinnacle's taking it down to 4. This total opened up at 54 and has come down to 51. Falcons just 1-3 at home. But they've won 2 straight games on the road against divisional opponents, and they haven't just won. They've smashed. How does this happen? Atlanta is not allowed a touchdown in 2 weeks? 11 sacks in that span, and they still have Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, so they can put up points. Tampa Bay looking to bounce back from that 34-17 loss. Winston was just hobbling all over the field late in that game. 313 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, but 4 interceptions. 4, and Evans and Godwin just didn't look as dominant. The Falcons have 13 sacks, 4 picks, 25 hits on the quarterback in their last 3 games. I mean, is this Falcons team for real, Donnie? How are you handling Buccaneers-Falcons?
I don't know. And that's a crazy question because you look at the last 2 weeks where they played on offense, versus the New Orleans Saints, 143 yards on the ground, 174 yards in the air. And then last week against Carolina, they dismantled Carolina, but only 54 yards on the ground and 295 in the air. So it's not as if that Falcons offense that we've always anticipated in the past, boy, look at all the weapons that they have. They're basically, have nothing on the ground. Devontae Freeman hurt. I don't know if he's even going to come back for this weekend's game. Then you have Austin Hooper, one of the better tight ends in football. He's out. So now you lean on, Julio Jones is great. Calvin Ridley's having a good season, but that you need to have a little bit more, and that's why they're struggling a little bit on offense. But having said that, the last 2 weeks they've been absolutely phenomenal on defense. You saw the end of the football game with Tampa Bay last week going against a good football team. The pick 6 at the end, Jameis Winston is hurt. This game has all the feel to me, Jimmy, and we're looking at a point spread like 4, 4.5. This has all the feel to me. 7-point game in the fourth quarter. Atlanta is leading. Jameis Winston and Tampa Bay are on offense. They march it to midfield, and they get a strip sack fumble, or Jameis Winston throws a pop fly that gets intercepted and lose this game. To me, early in the week, this is Atlanta or nobody, because I do like the way Atlanta's playing, but I want to temper those expectations because they've played some poor football before these last two. But if you look at the level of competition, they've played a pretty tough schedule over the past 5 to 6 weeks. I think they come home, maybe the fan, look, they're out of the playoffs, so I don't really know how engaged the fans would make a difference in this game, but there's a clear difference that they're playing hard on defense. And even looking at a 51.5, when you have Tampa Bay, I always say they always play to the over. Not so fast in this football game. I'm actually leaning on another under here, Jimmy, in the NFC South.
Another under here. So this opened at Pinnacle at 54. Let's just take a quick look at how fast this came down. So it was at 54 for 3 minutes. Lasted 3 minutes at 54. Then it went down to 53. It was at 53 for a day and a half before it went to 52 and 51. How far do you think this drops, or do you think the public knocks it back up a bit?
Yeah, it's hard because, again, the perception always, like if you just take out this season, oh my God, Atlanta, Tampa Bay are playing in a dome, great weather, they're going to throw it all over the lot. That's what you would really have to think on. I think Tampa Bay is going to be able to move the football, but again, they should have been able to move the football last week, only end up with 17 points. I could see both of these teams playing into that low 20s number and keeping it under that 51. But it just gets back to also, Jimmy, I think that the Atlanta defense is starting to turn the corner and play a little bit better football. You know, Raheem Morris is now a defensive backs coach, and that's supposed to be making all the difference there for them. We'll see in this game. But the explosive plays outside of Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley a little bit, I just don't see it on the ground. I think it'll be a slower moving football game for both of these teams. And 51 points is a lot in the NFL, especially in a divisional game.
Joe Yurkovich says 8 straight overs for Tampa Bay. Pie Guy says absolutely no way. I'm betting a Tampa Bay under. And Craig77 says Falcons are bipolar. The NFL makes no sense. Sometimes I thought the NFL made perfect sense the last couple of years. This year has just been an atrocity by me. And you know, when gas station sushi, Cappers, guys are making fun of my NFL record. You know, this is my 3rd NFL season. I was up double-digit units both the last 2 years. What can I say other than it's happening and I don't like it, but I have to wake up in the morning and put that record up. And I'm still going to take shots. I'm still going to fire away moving forward. Lions, Redskins, 49 Fahrenheit, sunny, 11 miles per hour in Washington. I did stay off the Redskins. And the only move I made was the over. And so I still feel like some of these moves, I'm definitely not going to be 20-plus units down come the end of the season. But, you know, you are what your record says you are. Redskins total opening up at 41.5. It's now at 42.5. Detroit opening up at -2.5. Now it's 3.5 across the board. Redskins lost by 17 points to the Jets. It was ugly. Haskins was bad. 19 for 35, 214 yards, 2 TDs and a pick, but a lot of those yards came when they were down 34-3. Put up like 100. He had about 100 passing yards through 3 quarters. Adrian Peterson looked terrible. I don't know why Geis isn't getting more opportunities. That tandem was held to 49 rush yards on 16 touches. Driscoll looks good. He went 15 for 26, 209 yards, 2 TDs. He ran 8 times for 51 yards. Bo Scarborough didn't look bad, 14 carries for 55 yards, but 3.5-point road favorites for the Lions. How are you going to break this game down, Donnie? Lions, Redskins.
Yeah, I was trying to do a little bit of, background checks on these two football teams because like an idiot I was last week on Tuesday, I preached to you how like, man, we're going to take the New York Jets in this football game. By the end of the week, I convinced myself that coming off a bye, this is probably the one spot where we could take the Washington Redskins and maybe feel good about it. And they were horrendous. I mean, in every single way you can, typically of bad football teams that aren't coached all that well. Hold a team to a field goal in the red zone, rough the kicker, turns into a touchdown. You get turnovers yourself. You can't convert them into points. You miss field goals. They got blown away in that football game. But going back, I just want to see like some of the injuries where maybe they were getting a little bit healthier for the Washington Redskins. And I caught a couple interesting quotes, especially from Bill Callahan, the head football coach. And they were asking about like Josh Norman and a couple other guys that they benched in the second half on defense. And he said it wasn't as a fact of like, well, they're not playing well. He said, I wanted to get a look at some of the other guys in depth in our position in the secondaries. That was a major red flag to an organization that no longer cares about the product on the field actually winning. They've already moved on to next year and are writing their notes down to see who can play and who can't. It's a similar philosophy, Jimmy, in Major League Baseball sometimes in September, where a normal closer would come in. You say, you know what, let's pull that guy out. Let's let the young kid pitch from Double-A just to see what he has, because we're already out of the playoff picture. That hurts because Detroit, from what you're watching, very spirited the past couple weeks, even playing with Driscoll. He can make some plays with his feet, but when it comes down to this football game of what you trust more, Dwayne Haskins has been atrocious this year. I don't know, hey, he played well in Buffalo and last. You know what? I think he's going to come out and play well. He was horrific again last week. I don't care how bad that Detroit defense is. You need somebody who actually can throw the football and read a defense in order to beat a defense like the Detroit Lions. I don't think they can. It's Detroit or nobody early in the week here for me, Jimmy.
How did you break down the Detroit-Dallas game? Is that Driscoll can move the ball, or Dallas's defense is bottom 10 in the league now?
Yeah, it's kind of tough because, again, we like what Jeff Driscoll does, but when you take a look at the numbers, you say, oh, man, they put up 27 points. They only lost. They had a chance at the end of the football game. But when you look at the overall numbers, Jimmy, 121 yards on the ground, 191 in the air. So I don't expect Driscoll to come on the road here and, perform a miracle where they can all of a sudden run the football with Bo Scarborough for 150 yards and he throws for 300. It's more of saying I trust the logic of the Detroit coaching staff and what they're trying to do, other than, hey, get out there, Dwayne, and let's just throw a couple passes to see what goes on. And if you're benching guys, what happens if this game again, Jimmy, gets in the second half, Detroit's up, let's just say 17-7 in the third quarter? Are they saying, all right, let's get a look at some guys at wide receiver and DBs again to see what we have next year? I can't bet a football team that looks like they've already turned the page on the season when one team is still fighting even with the backup quarterback.
Yeah, and one team is still fighting. There's no doubt about that. Robert Weimer says, like the Lions, but when the money goes down on the Lions from me, they doggy style me. He says, how can they F this one up for me this time? Yeah, I'm going to bet it, so I'm telling you to take the Skins. I know that feeling, man, but I won't take the Skins. It's Lions or nobody. When we're talking about a total here in this spot, it's open at 41.5, now 42.5. What's your lean, Donnie?
Over. Bad football teams get together. They do stupid things like fumble kickoffs and throw interceptions back the other way. Whenever I'm going to get two bad teams together, especially one defense. Look, the Detroit's defense is already bad. Washington hasn't shown much, and they're benching guys in the secondary. Why can't both these? And I was actually, I'm trying to catch myself again this week to try to not outsmart myself the way I did last week, because I see that 19 as a team total for the Redskins against this defense and saying it has to be better. They just have to be better. And I don't want to pound my fist on the table at a Haskins strip sack fumble or a stupid interception that he gives up and they quit in the second half. But I'm trying to pull myself back, Jimmy, from a team total in the Washington Redskins. But I do think the game actually goes over the total.
Yeah, I do as well. It's a nice day Sunday in Washington. Nice day in a lot of these
it is. You're right.
Markets. Seahawks, Eagles. Ooh, this is a big one. I think as soon as I said that, I know that Prince of the City's ears just perked up. Seahawks, Eagles, 46 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, 10 miles per hour will be the wind Sunday in Philly. Philly opening up at -3 at +102. They're now -2 at +102. And there are 1.5s on the board. Money coming in on the Seabirds. The total opened up at 49. Now we have 48s, a couple 48.5s. The Eagles just have a +4 point differential. Wentz comes into this matchup with a passer rating of 91.4. That's 18th among NFL quarterbacks, lowest since his rookie season in 2016. I'm wondering, Donnie, if you feel like that's because he has no wide receivers or that he maybe is just not as good as we thought he was going to be. New England's top-ranked passing defense was tricky for him. He went 20 for 40 for 214 yards and a touchdown. He was sacked 5 times. He lost a fumble. As we know, no Deshaun Jackson, no Alshon Jeffries. The Eagles rank either last or second to last in receptions by receiver, receiving yards, yards per catch. It's Ertz, the Pro Bowl tight end, that leads the Eagles with 55 catches. And then the other tight end, Goddard, with the 4 TD catches. In receiver rankings, they're 31st, and last in yards, catches, and yards per catch. They're allowing just 86 yards per game on the ground. They've held opponents to 17 points or less in 3 straight games. Are they going to be able to slow down this very, very scary Seahawks offense? And it's just because of Russell Wilson. I mean, it's not the whole offense. And we know that the Seahawks like to run, and the Eagles can slow that down. But it's Jadeveon Clowney and Jaron Reed that all of a sudden, they're all of a sudden menaces out there. They're all of a sudden stepping up when they hadn't been all year. Are the Seahawks rising right now? I love when you break down your Philadelphia Eagles. How are you going to hammer Seahawks Eagles?
It's got a similar feel to last week, doesn't it, Jimmy? Like 9 out of 10 tickets early in the week, and probably through the rest of the week we'll be lining up on Seattle. And why would you not when you theoretically look at what the Philadelphia Eagles have? Now, if you could say coming into the game, Alshon Jeffrey was healthy, Deshaun Jackson is out there, the Eagles would beat the Seahawks. The Eagles would have beat New England last week, but that's not the case, and you have to cap with what you have here. Now, the defense, not as good as the New England Patriots that they're going to face. I mean, that's a check mark, but I think they're coming on and getting stronger, and also they're coming off of a bye for the Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson is the single best player in football. No matter what happens, that your defense is prepared and ready for it. He just seems to have the upper hand on you. Third down plays, he throws punts that continually get caught 30 yards down the field, or at least get a flag. They are an amazing offense because of Russell Wilson can do, because their offensive line is horrendous. He's the only quarterback in the league that doesn't need an offensive line and actually plays better the worse his offensive line gets. Imagine that being an actual credible thought, which it really is. But looking at this game going forward, Jimmy, the Eagles aren't getting anybody. Let's take a look. Jadeveon Clowney is going to be out there. Their pass rush is going to be coming after it. The Eagles might be down Lane Johnson, the best right tackle in football. We don't know if Jordan Howard's going to appear on the football field this week. Hasn't been cleared yet through a doctor after the one stinger. Alshon Jeffrey didn't even practice last week. So even if he does get back to practice or hobbles around, how effective can he be? So you're left with the same exact solutions for Carson Wentz. And one of the points you brought up previously before actually going over the game, Carson Wentz is a really good quarterback. If you gave him weapons that actually could make plays, if you just role reversed and put Carson Wentz in Dallas Cowboys offense, he would set the world on fire, and again, just like 2017, be the MVP of football. But he doesn't have anything. Nobody makes any play unless he puts the ball right on the numbers to Zach Ertz, who will catch the football and fall down. Nobody makes plays. 50-50 balls, 60-40 balls. Not a single Eagles wide receiver is an NFL level talent, and that's what he's going up against. It looks easy to take Seattle early in the week, Jimmy. And again, the Eagles, the only team in the NFL that only gets more injured, even more time off than they should be coming back. Nigel Bradham, hey, look, he's going to come back this week. We'll see if he can run on the sidelines. You got to be kidding me. The secondary of the Eagles should be able to hold up against the Seattle Seahawks, but the Eagles got to score points, Jimmy. Not so sure they can do it. I actually like the under 49 in this football game.
It's a high total. Open at 49. There's still some 48.5s on the board. Nick Go says if Eagles D-line can contain Wilson in the pocket, they win easily. Can the D-line contain Wilson in the pocket?
I think the Eagles will be ready on defense. But you know what I mean? If you say, hey, Seattle's going to score 24 points in this football game, you probably would take it the way they've been motoring and say, hey, the Eagles got a real shot in this game. But the cap is the Eagles offense doing anything against anybody's defense with no playmakers. Jimmy, you saw the path to victory last week versus the Patriots, right? Run the football, 9-minute drives. That's an aberration in the NFL. You don't win by saying, we're going to hold the football and keep it away and pound the that doesn't win in the NFL, and you saw they lost 17-10.
Chris Brady saying Seahawks money line here, and Neil Frank, Seattle team total over. Clint Richardson says this is a tough game. Eagles will have a shot. Pie Guy says if Tyler Lockett plays the Hawks, easy. Chris Brady says I'm taking the over 49 as well. Not my best bet, but go over. Nick O says Hawks fat and happy on a roll off a bye, which means a letdown spot here. Robert Weimer says liking the under, Philly slow, has no healthy players. Seabags will have trouble scoring against the Birds D and sprinkling some money line cash on the Seahawks. Wow. Jeff Billings says, Jimmy, it's Seattle first half full game and Seattle team total over. Craig77 says Eagles offense is inept, leaning Seahawks. Robert Weimer says everyone scores on Philly through the air, but Seattle doesn't have the receivers to burn the Eagles. Yeah, the under is right, Donnie. The under is right. Maybe I'll put a little L towards the under. Okay, let's keep rolling along here. Next up, Jaguars, Titans, Jacksonville, Tennessee. Tennessee opening up at -3. That's what we got across the board. There has been a 6-cent move towards Tennessee, so it's at -120. It's gone up to -125 at Bovada, but it's -120 or -115 at most of the books. This total opened up at 41.5, and that is where it remains. 49 Fahrenheit, sunny, 6-mile-per-hour wind in Nashville. Jacksonville lost badly on the road in Indianapolis on Sunday, 33-13. Tennessee off a bye last week. They defeated Kansas City 35-32 at home in their last game, November 10th. Jacksonville started the season poorly, but 4 wins in their last 6 games got them back to 500, and then they've fallen apart again. That was a bad loss, 33-13. Bad loss. They picked Foles over Minshew, which makes sense, but they couldn't stop the run game of the Colts. Jacksonville went ahead 7-0 and then just got blown away. Jaguars, Titans, how are you handling this one, Donnie?
I'm actually leaning towards the home team in this game. Jacksonville came off a bye week, didn't really show up all that much. They too many penalties in that game, too many plays they could have made that they didn't make in that game, ended up with a blowout. The score was a little bit more deceiving than actually that game was, but I do like what's going on down in Tennessee. I like the victory that they got over the Chiefs. They go into the bye week, fat and happy, come back, hey, we got a legitimate shot maybe to win the division or maybe make a playoff run here in a depleted AFC. The one thing that I take a look at this game and I try to measure is, when we take a look at full season statistics versus what's really going on with some things that have changed, obviously being the quarterback position, Marcus Mariota no longer the starting quarterback. Now you're getting some nice play out of Tannehill. I think the 41 in this game is a little bit cheap, Jimmy. I think we're going to get some points. Last week, again, as I said, Indianapolis and that Jackson was just a little bit off in that game. I think they can do some things that'll put up some points in this game. I'm not saying they're going to 28 points from Jacksonville, but approach that 20-point level because I think Tennessee's going to be able to score. Delaney Walker possibly coming back after missing the past couple of games. The one thing that is going to hurt is it doesn't look like Corey Davis is going to make it back, but I still think they have some weapons. Since the change at quarterback after that shutout loss to Denver, you got 23 points, you got 27 points, you got 20 points, and you got 35 points in this game. 41 isn't a huge number. Both of these teams can approach the 20s, and if I think that's the case, which I do, the game should go over 41 points. That's not a lot.
It's not a lot. A lot of people loving the Titans here. Jeff Donnie says Titans all the way. Yeah. Jeremy Williams says Tennessee, my favorite play of the week. What do you think of backing the Tennessee Titans here?
I like it. I think Tennessee's the right play in this game. I think, again, getting that win, they stole a win from Kansas City, which is great. So you go into the bye week, you try to get a little bit healthier, and you come back. The one thing I don't like about Jackson is you usually can lean on their defense, Jimmy, and hasn't been that good the past 2 weeks. And you're getting a quarterback playing good football and getting confidence. Nothing helps a quarterback more going into the bye week than having a touchdown drive to end the football game to put your team over the top. I don't fear that Jacksonville secondary. I don't fear that Jacksonville team against the run. I think Henry's going to have a nice day. I think play action works in well, and I think Tennessee can win this football game and go over the total at the same time.
And Adam Olin saying love that over. And it's just a Titans team that wins the games they're not supposed to and loses the games they are supposed to win. But I can't let that get in the way here. Let's get to the marquee matchup of the weekend. Robert Weimer also liking that overlook from Donnie. Cowboys, Patriots. It's 40 Fahrenheit, partly cloudy, just 5 miles per hour wind in Foxborough on Sunday. Patriots 4-0 at home. Cowboys 3-2 on the road, and their defense keeps looking worse. But Patriots offense struggling to run the ball, not finding deep passes. And then Dallas comes to town. Dallas should be vulnerable, but can the Patriots take advantage of it? And we also have the Jason Garrett versus Bill Belichick situation. Of course, you want to back Belichick here. Dak Prescott looking good, 29-46, 444 yards, 3 touchdowns. Zeke did very little. He either does nothing or goes for 100 yards. He rarely has those 85, 80-yard games. It's just over 100, or like he did last week, 16 rushes for 45 yards. Gallup had a big night, 9 passes for 148 yards. Dallas defense allowed 312 total yards to the Lions, but they're scoring 28.6 points per game, allowing 19.7. The Patriots are scoring 28.7 points per game, but I don't see that offense anywhere to be found. Donnie, RightSide, Cowboys, Patriots at 6.5. At most books. There are some 6s at Bookmaker and Heritage. There's a 7 at Bovada. This total dropped from 46 to 45.5 at a couple different books. Donnie, RightSide, the marquee matchup of the week, Cowboys, Patriots.
Yeah, it's a good one. And you know what I like about this game is you saw last week, Tom Brady not happy after the game, only putting up 17 points against the Eagles. When they did have some success, they went to hurry up. There's no way. The one thing I like is now that New England doesn't look like they can run the football. So if you're going to go against a high-powered offense, you say, we're going to get in playoff mode. We're just going to pound the rock against the Dallas Cowboys. That's not going to work. That's not what they do now. So I do think you're going to get maybe a more up-tempo offense from the New England Patriots because you can score on this Dallas defense, particularly the secondary. I think Tom Brady's going to have a little bit of a step up, but I already went on this. I'm going to make an official play on the Audible. I think Dallas is getting disrespected from an offensive standpoint. They're the best offense in the National Football League here. And when you take a look and say, well, Donnie, wait, New England Patriots, one of the best defenses in the NFL. I understand that. Their last 5 games, they played the Giants, who stink on ice on offense. They played the Jets in that game where a quarterback was seeing ghosts and just throwing the ball as pop flies in the outfield as an easy catch for interceptions. Then they played the Cleveland Browns in the pouring rain in that football game, get absolutely obliterated when an offense knew what they were doing in the Baltimore Ravens. And then you saw the Philadelphia Eagles last week with me, you, Jimmy, Flash out there playing wide receiver. Nobody's going to score against that. You're getting the best offense of the day, or the best offense in the NFL. I took the team total, Jimmy, over 19.5 for the Dallas Cowboys at minus 118. That's going to be an official play here for the Audible this week. And I couldn't wait any longer. I didn't want to see it go to 20. The Dallas Cowboys are going to be in the 20s in this football game. And I also think New England's going to score as well, which leads me to that next option of taking the over in this football game, 45.5, 46 in that range. I think we get some points here in this football game.
Cowboys team total over 19.5 at minus 118. Is that right?
That is exactly it, yes.
There it is. Donnie RightSide, official play locked in on the Audible. There we have it. Cowboys team total over 19.5. And yeah, I find the total interesting. I also feel like the Cowboys should be able to stay in this game. 6.5 points is enough points to probably stay in this game. If you had a free play to make on the side right now, what would it be?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm looking the same direction as you because I think Dallas, we're not looking at the old, and again, it's kind of an odd cap when I'm going to try to lay it out because I do think the New England Patriots score in the mid-20s, but this isn't the Gronkowski, super dominant Brandon Cooks. We can score in the at any time. We have multiple wide receivers, a dynamic offensive line, and a great running game, and Tom Brady a couple years younger. This team sort of limps through games, but there's some things I like the New England Patriots can do against the Dallas Cowboys defense, but if I had a free play in this one, Dallas's offense is running at peak performance. They'll score, they'll press the issue, and if I think that's going to be the case, give me the 6 points here.
I agree, and I think the over is a good look, and a lot of people liking your team total over. Chris Brady says that's a great team total play. Donnie, but Gabriel Hernandez like in the under 46. I just don't feel like that. Robert Weimer says after last week can't like the Pats, but history tells us to back them. Can I get a full TD for the boys? If so, maybe I like them under. Smells like my actual play. And Sean Mick liking the Pats team total under 26.5. I feel like that is a recency bias in effect that everybody's liking the under, and I think this game goes over. We just watched the Lions put up a lot of points against this Cowboys, and the Patriots have a better offense than the Driscoll-led Detroit Lions. I'm very close to making a move on this over. Very, very close. All right.
Like, Jimmy, when you take a look, just real quick, keep it simple in this football game. Your last statement was exactly. Bill Belichick's going to get that tape and say, wait a second, 27 points, they move the football through the air. They're going to go to an air raid, I believe, on the New England Patriots. I don't see it the opposite, saying, well, we can really ground and pound this team. So I like your look. It's a good point you make.
I think that that your team total is a beauty. I think that the over is a beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And you might want to get a little bullish on this and take team total overs for both sides in the over. I mean,
it might be. It might be a trifecta, Jimmy, as we like to say, right? I mean, we're close to that margin where as long as we don't get bad, which doesn't look like, because you're. I like the way you're going here. Late November, a lot of these East Coast games that we're used to 35 degrees and 20 miles an hour and maybe some snowy or rainy conditions, you're getting some good weather here, and that helps out.
It's actually a beautiful weekend. It's not bad sports playing weather at all. I mean, 40 Fahrenheit in Foxborough. I mean, it's cold, but it's not that cold. It's nice sports weather in all these markets. All right, let's move on to another very, very exciting game. Packers-Niners. All I've heard from everybody all week so far, Donnie, is Packers. Packers. Niners open up at -3. That's where they stand. So everybody's saying Packers, but there's been a 9-cent move towards the Niners. They're now -114 after a -105 opening. This total opened up at 45.5. Is now 46 and 46.5. The Packers are coming off a bye. We know this 49ers team is beaten up, but I expect them to get Kittle back. Here. The Packers coming off a pretty good performance. They're 23rd against the pass, 25th against the run. And, we just saw Jimmy G put up 400-plus yards with very little to pass to. Green Bay scoring 25 points a game, ranking 9th in the NFL, allowing 20.5. They're 3-1 on the road. Niners are 4-1 at home. Jimmy G, 423 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. We know that Breda is hurt. And Coleman does not look very good right now. I expect Kittle to be back. And, it's funny. Everybody, nice. Robbie Tagaloa is going to be at the game. I love it, Robbie. Everybody liking the Packers, and yet the market's moving towards the Niners. But not, just 9-cent move. Donnie, RightSide, Packers, Niners.
It's funny, Jimmy, and again, you're right, because you look at, wait a second, Packers coming off a bye, look at their record, Aaron Rodgers, they're getting it together. But sometimes you have to take a look at the fights that they've gotten into in order to try to get here and try to, pick out who's going to win this football game. The one thing that San Francisco can really do here, if we take a look at the Packers' last 5 games, which they went 4-1, they beat the Detroit Lions. Front 7, average at best. Oakland's front 7, average at best. Kansas City, probably below average at best, especially in the football game that they played them. The Carolina Panthers, leaky on defense. You know what team actually got after and embarrassed them, Jimmy? A 2-man tandem that the Chargers pulled out in Ingram and Bosa and really got after Aaron Rodgers and rattled him. This front 7 is going to be out for blood against Aaron Rodgers. I actually think I think the number is cheap on the 49ers in this football game, because if the 49ers just continue to get healthy, let's just say if they do get Kittle back in this football game, let's say all 3 of their running backs are healthy in this football game, they're going to move the ball against the Packers. Do I think the Packers can score? Sure, the Packers are going to it's a 3-point game. These are 2 really good football teams at night. But when I look more and more at this game, you see San Francisco the last 2 weeks, right? You say, well, they struggled a little bit with Arizona. Ooh, they struggled a little bit with Seattle. You're talking about the two out of the 3 elite mobile quarterbacks in the NFL to try to elude that pass rush. That's not happening this week. They're going to bury Aaron Rodgers in the pocket. Even the Niners early in the week here, Jimmy.
It's nice to hear this, because this is the first time I've heard it all week so far. Jeremy Williams says 49ers roll. Buck Nasty says Niners D will show up. Big question is, will Jimmy G? Jeff Billings says, Jimmy, I like the 49ers team total over and with the points and the full game over. Chris Brady says, I'm thinking the same as Donnie. But earlier, and Pie Guy 49ers. Interesting. Adam Olin liking the Packers. I know Flash here is heavy loving the Packers here. Donnie, free play on the total. It opened up at 45.5. It's now 46 or 46.5. Would you try to get over it?
You know what? It's funny because I think Green Bay is going to score. I mean, what's their team total coming in around like 20-point range? They'll be around there. I think San Francisco can score in Green Bay. I do think it's a little bit light here. And again, if we're going to get healthier on San Francisco's offense, we've seen what this offense can do when Kittle's just in the lineup, even if he's as a decoy out there running around. I think there's some shots to hit for San Francisco. I'll lean towards the over in this football game, Jimmy.
Well, I like it. I'm so excited about this game. And it's going to be beautiful weather in San Francisco at night. 53 Fahrenheit, clear, and wind will be 10 miles per hour. Perfect rotation as this one is sketchy. There's my guy EJV saying 49ers, baby. Gabriel 49ers, prime time over 46.5. Anil Frank over. And let's move on to the Monday Nighter. Another very interesting game. Rams opening up at -3. That's where they stand. They're 3 across the board. There's actually been a 5-cent move towards the Rams. This total opened at 46.5, and that is where it stands as well. So the Rams are, for the second time this year, they're dogs. And for the first time in a few years, they're home dogs. Baltimore has looked incredible. Last 4 weeks, they're the best team in the league. 30 points in each game, at least 30 points in each game. Beat the Seahawks by 14. Beat the Patriots by 17. Beat the Bengals by 36. Beat Houston by 34. With the Rams' 5th-ranked rush defense, 2nd in yards per carry allowed, Can they slow down the Ravens? Ravens 3-point road favorites. Donnie RightSide. Monday nighter, Ravens-Rams.
I don't think they can slow them down. I don't. But it's the line pops up. It's another one of those when you look at the Seattle line. Oh, why are we just going to take Seattle? Same thing with Baltimore. I mean, good luck stepping in front of that train. You're going to get run over, and rightfully so, because I don't think there's a defense right now that can actually defend the Baltimore Ravens. You rush the passer. Do you not mush rush him? He's making passes. They're running the football. They're being real explosive on the offensive side of the ball, and they actually got better on defense as well. Marcus Peters coming over and also getting a little bit healthier in that secondary. But I have to say in this game, forget about the side, Jimmy. If we're going to take a look at 46, but I don't care that the Rams are like a top 5 defense on paper right now. Pencil in Baltimore for high 20s right off the bat. And you're going to say, all right, well, what have I seen for the past couple weeks out of the Rams? They really stink. Let's get something straight here. If they come into this game to get a little bit of help, a little bit more health on the offensive line, they should be able to slow down. Baltimore's pass rush isn't overbearing. Now, when we take a look at offense, one hand behind you. It's the same way we look at the Philadelphia Eagles. If Jared Goff does have some weapons he can work with, that offense should be able to move the football. Now we're taking a look at Cooks, who's been upgraded to probable. Cooper Kupp's going to be there. He'll be more effective just by Cooks being out there. And Robert Woods, as long as he doesn't have another personal, situation on game day, those 3 wide receivers along with Gerald Everett back at tight end, we're going to get points in this game. No way am I looking at a Baltimore Ravens game and saying, I'm going to sit on the under. That offense is electric, and you're getting healthier on the offensive side of the football for the Rams. That can only help out. The Rams should get into the 20-point range, Jimmy. And there's no way the Baltimore Ravens are going to be stuck in neutral like some 20-point game. Let's go over the total here. Let's do it.
Over the total. Wow, Donnie. Wow, that's a very interesting spot. Chump Chain says Goff's going to panic, won't put up points. I mean, that is a concern. He's been handling pressure poorly. Jeff Billings, bullish here, says this is a game for me. I love the Ravens first half and full game. Ravens game over and Ravens team total over. YouTube says Ravens going to crash and we all know it. Gabriel Hernandez, Rams under 46.5 says, can Rams put up points? Their only chance of this game is through their defense. Craig 77 says Ravens on primetime TV will rock. And Robert Weimer says Baltimore is just a train that is cruising down the track. I can't jump in front of that. Chump Chain says Ravens too good. Chris Brady says Ravens should roll here. And Nick Go says it's a bad spot for the Ravens because they have the Niners in week 13. And Sean Mick says got to be Ravens here. Rams are not good. Todd Gurley turned up last week, but that was against the Bears. And Justin Bilbo says can only look Baltimore in this game. Goff looked terrible last week. Big Ragu in the house says Harbaugh catching lightning in a bottle with Jackson and the D. Beach Boss says I'm putting my grandma's social security check on the Ravens.
Yes.
There we have Beach Boss. Doing whatever it takes to get that paper. Our guy, Beach Boss in the house. Perfect rotation, though, says Ravens won't score 17. There you have it. We have broken down each and every game on this card, and Donnie RightSide is already locked in a play. Donnie RightSide is on the Cowboys team total over 19.5 at minus 118. Cowboys team total over 19.5 at minus 118. We have no show without these great cappers in the chat. Robert Weimer and Neil Frank, perfect rotation, Chump Change, Big Ragu, YouTube, Beach Boss, Chris Brady, Trey Hicks, Nick O, Adam Olin, Chump Change, Pie Guy, Jeff Billings, Gabriel Hernandez, Robert Weimer. All you guys, thank you so much. Major Tom, Fat Fist, EJV, Dutch Boy Fresh. All you guys, thank you so much for putting all your energy into this show, your funny insights, your extremely useful insights as well, not just your funny insights, all of it together. We have no show without you guys. Donnie RightSide, any last words for these great cappers in the chat and those watching from home?
I appreciate it, you guys coming in. It's like a therapy session. Some weeks we win, some weeks we lose, but we can always talk about it and get that gameplay moving forward. The one thing I do like about the show, even though I stunk with the picks that I gave out last week, is you come back in Tuesday and you talk about it. You're like, you know what? Let's see what we have. And by the end of the show, you're feeling really good about the week coming up and some optimistic plays. We'll let the governor off this week and start really pressing the needle. I think we're going to do well this week, Jimmy. I think it's all set up there. And the chat box comes in, backs it forth. And I love the instant. Don't you love the instant soundboard? Like you put out a play, a couple people like it, a couple people don't. That's what's fantastic about the information highway that we have here at sportsbookreview.com in the chat box. Jimmy's over there running it from his end. It's fun, man. We have a lot of fun doing this, and we appreciate you guys coming into the chat box again. And Friday, we'll be ready. Trust me.
Friday, we will be ready. We'll be joined by the Whale Capper. And tomorrow night, we are doing the Pick Six playoff drive live. Myself, Big Ragu and DJ Big Boss will be live going over our NFL and NCAA football looks. And we're going to be doing that every Wednesday night for the rest of the regular season. So another 6 weeks of Wednesday night action where we will be drinking and capping together as one. I can't wait for it. Thank you guys so much on behalf of Donnie RightSide, Rafa on the ones and twos, and everybody here at Sports Review. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let's get after it. Let's finish the season strong. It's all my only hope is to finish the season strong. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let's have a big week. See you guys Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern.
Awesome, Jimmy.